What's up, y'all? I'm your host, Stan Becton, and you're listening to the NightStand, where we provide you with an intriguing social commentary on sports, entertainment, and more. We got an amazing show for you today, so stay tuned and listen up. What's up, y'all? It's your host, Stan Becton. That's me, yours truly. If you haven't heard of me, you'll be hearing of me soon. We back at it again with the NightStand. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Follow us on Instagram at the NightStand Show. This week, we got a lot planned, jam-packed episode full of information. We got the XFL. We got who's the best team in the NBA. We got MVP for the NBA after the Lakers beating the Bucks and the Clippers. We got the NFL CBA. We got coronavirus. Yep, coronavirus. That's impacting sports around the country. We got that in the episode. And then we got a little bit of preview for stuff coming up next week. Stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode because there's some good news happening for y'all at the end of this show. But now, as always, let's get started with our XFL recap. This week in the XFL, you got the Houston Roughnecks defeating the Seattle Dragons by a score of 32-23. PJ Walker, he rebounded. Well, I don't want to say rebound because he didn't have a bad week last week. He just didn't put up the MVP numbers we have seen him put up throughout the season. But this week, he threw for 351 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 of which coming to Cam Phillips. That connection is back. And the Roughnecks won. And PJ Walker also maintained his hold, his tight hold, I might add, on the MVP race. It's really his to lose at this point. Then you got the New York Guardians defeating the Dallas Renegades by a score of 30-12. The Renegades, their offense really suffered without Landry Jones. Looked like how they did in week 1 without him. And Luis Perez, he got his second win as a starter, back-to-back wins. So it'll be interesting when Matt McGloin gets healthy, whether or not he'll remain a starter, because we all know the Guardians did struggle when McGloin was their starting quarterback. Next up, you got the DC Defenders back at home. So you know what that means. They're going to win. Back at home, defeating the St. Louis Battlehawks by a score of 15-6. Now, y'all might remember last week I was talking about Jordan Ta'amu. Yeah, he did not have a good performance after I put him out there. Only threw for 0 touchdowns. I said only threw for 0 touchdowns. That don't make no sense. With Jordan Ta'amu threw for 0 touchdowns. Another interesting quarterback fact from this week was Cardale Jones. You might have remembered after week 1 of his performance, he was all the rave. Everyone thought he was the face of the XFL. I thought he was going to be the face of the XFL. This week, he got benched in the first quarter. 2 bad performances in a row. The DC Defenders were not about to have a third, so they benched him for Tyree Jackson. You might remember him from Buffalo last year. While people in the XFL are all rookies, Tyree Jackson is a true rookie. 6'7", same kind of build as Cardale Jones, big quarterback. He was able to lead them to a win. So with Cardale Jones getting benched, you got to think it's a quarterback battle there too. Lastly, you got the LA Wildcats and the Tampa Bay Vipers. This was a high-scoring matchup. Wildcats won 41-34. Josh Johnson threw for 4 touchdowns. Now it's time to get into our NBA news from the weekend. Swish, I'm ballin'. I'm so awesome. This week in the NBA, as I told you last week, was a big weekend for the NBA's top teams. You had the Lakers. They defeated not only the Bucks, but also the Clippers. They defeated the Bucks by a score of 113-103, and then they defeated the Clippers by a score of 112-103. With these 2 wins, I got to say the Los Angeles Lakers, that is the NBA's best team. They got to be the best team. They defeated 2 of the best teams back-to-back games on a weekend. They weren't back-to-back nights, but they were back-to-back games. That's still important because you got to get up for both of those games and treat both of those as if they were playoff games. So the Lakers, they got to be the NBA's best team. Will they finish with the NBA's best record over the Milwaukee Bucks? I'm unsure about that. I mean, the Bucks kind of have like a 3-game advantage or something like that. It's probably fluctuating by the time you listen to this, and they fluctuate with the day. But I don't know if they are going to end up with the best record or not, but they beat both teams, so they got to be the best team in the NBA at this point. Now to a deeper conversation of who's the NBA's MVP. Well, I think it's right now a 2-headed horse between the teams with the 2 best records, the Bucks and the Lakers. You got Giannis on the Bucks, and you got LeBron on the Lakers. Now, you might say Giannis has less to work with, but Giannis also did win the MVP last year, and you know how MVP voters are when it comes to giving back-to-backs. They don't like to do it. You got to be special. And LeBron, he's having a special year running the point guard position for the Los Angeles Lakers and leading them to a better record. Of course, they got Anthony Davis on their team too, but LeBron's really leading that team to success. When LeBron scores like 30 points or more, I believe the Lakers are undefeated. So, do I think LeBron is an MVP? I think he is in that conversation and tighten that a lot. I think here's what I'll say. Here's my bold prediction for the week. LeBron will win the MVP of the NBA for this season if the Lakers finish with a better record than the Bucks. So yes, the award is an individual award. However, I believe this award is going to come down to team success. If the Lakers finish with a better record than the Bucks, LeBron James will be the NBA MVP. You heard it here first. That's all I got for the basketball news for this week. Now it's time to get into an issue that's really going to impact the sports landscape for the foreseeable future. The National Football League Collective Bargaining Agreement. The National Football League has this collective bargaining agreement up on the table for the players to sign. It's going to a full player vote. They pushed back the deadline a little bit, which in theory pushed back other things that teams have to get done. But the NFL CBA is important to the future of football, whether it's player benefits, an extra 17th game, whether it's drug policies and things like that. It's very important to football. It's all the behind the scenes stuff that you might not see, whether it's payment and all of that. So it's really important. Now, do I think the players are getting a good deal with what they have right now? Well, that leads me into my 3-point stance.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
I do not think the players should take on this new CBA and sign it. There's a couple of reasons. One, there's a 17th game. This means a 17th game with more risk for injury. Yet, I don't think the player safety additions in this CBA, from what I've read, I haven't read the entire thing, of course, that's 400 pages, I'm not doing that, but I've read a lot about it, and I do not think this CBA has enough player safety guidelines for it. So I don't think that this 17th game would be beneficial for the players. There's still no lifetime medical. Like, come on now. For number 2, the revenue split. Yes, the players' revenue split did go up to 48%, but that's still not 50-50. And there's a little loophole in there trying to make the players think it looks better than it is. They say that if the league revenue for the year increases by 120%, then the players can get their revenue share to go up to 48.8%. So the revenue for the players has potential to go up more than 48%, but that's still not 50-50. It should be a 50-50 split how it once was. Point number 3. There's no opt-out in this deal. It's a 10-year collective bargaining agreement that they are about to sign and agree on. There's no opt-out. You have heard throughout the years all the different problems with the NFL CBA and how it has impacted the players over the past few years, as far as whether that's commissioner control, drug policy, things like that. All these things are flexible. At the start of the deal, you might have thought it was good, and now it's bad. So there's no opt-out in this 10-year deal. You got to get at least one opt-out option in this deal for the players. If you're the players, you got to get an opt-out. So why is this a bad deal for the players? Once again, 3-point stance. 17th game, that's bad for the players. It's not a 50-50 revenue split, and there is no opt-out of this 10-year deal for the collective bargaining agreement. The players should not sign this CBA. That's it. As far as the rest of the NFL goes and the offseason goes, you got a couple things coming up. The franchise tag deadline has been extended to Monday. That's good because that's when the CBA deadline is being pushed. So you get to know about the updates for the franchise tag. There have been a couple of players franchised and big names in the air for being franchised in the future, like AJ Green. He got franchised. Dak Prescott, still up in the air. Brandon Scherf, guard, all-pro guard, still up in the air. So you got to wait and see for the franchise tag. And that leads me to my next point, the NFL free agency. That starts next Wednesday, March 18th. You got a little bit of tampering period before that, but March 18th is when all the big contracts will officially be signed. March 18th. There will be a new dedicated episode to NFL free agency. 100% episode to NFL free agency coming up for you soon. That's all I got for the NFL news for you today. Now, let's talk about March Madness.
Ballin' like the March Madness.
March Madness is upon us. Yes, March Madness is upon us. We are in the middle of March. March Madness is upon us. You got the conference tournaments all happening this week and this weekend to see who's going to win those automatic bids for their conference, finalize seeding, and who's going to end up where, with Selection Sunday happening on Sunday. First March Madness games, first four, this Tuesday, upcoming Tuesday. March Madness is upon us, and for y'all, special for y'all, I'm going to have a full-on March Madness episode where I go through my bracket, give you my picks for the March Madness episode coming next week. So what did I just say? I said we're going to have a free agency episode and a March Madness episode. That's 2 for you. That's a 2-for-1 in a week. 2 podcast episodes for you next week, coming just for you. You're going to want to stay tuned and listen to that. But now it's time to talk about the coronavirus. Coronavirus is something that's taken over across the country, making drastic decisions. You already had March Madness decide to cancel all their fans. NBA is making a decision as well. International sports scenes are doing the same thing. No fans at the game, media restrictions, all of that. Now, the coronavirus is something that is getting updated every day. Schools are canceling. Things like that. Every day, things are changing. Coronavirus is very drastic, and I think that the leagues are going to do whatever is best interest for their players. Now, should a player play without fans? Well, that might make it a little more intense for them to be able to hear everything, no crowd interaction. If it's best to keep the games on TV and people can watch and they can still make their money, that's the most important thing, because we all know that they can't make money without the fans, and they definitely can't make money without TV. So as long as the games can come on TV, that's good for them. It'll be an interesting thing, the first game without fans. March Madness starts on Tuesday. That probably will be one of the first games. So it's interesting to see. But now it's time for the standout of the week. Who is it going to be? We like to highlight one every week.
I'm a big boy, big boss, stand out. Always been a stand-up guy, rather stand out. Sit down or still stand out. Everybody wanna be the same, but I'ma stand out. Hold on.
This week's standout athlete, we like to highlight athletes who stand out on the court or off the court. This week goes to Maya Moore. Why? Maya Moore, you might know her from her days at UConn. You might know her from her days at the Minnesota Lynx, dominating the women's basketball scene since she has been in high school, I might add. Well, she hasn't played since 2019. She's taking a hiatus. Why is she taking a hiatus? Because of a guy named Jonathan Irons. Who is he? Well, he was wrongfully convicted of burglary and assault and has been held in prison for the past 23 years on a 50-year sentence. With the help of Maya Moore, who decided to take her hiatus from basketball and not play until his wrongful conviction was overturned, Jonathan Irons is now about to be a free man. He's on the verge. While the case is not over and it can still be appealed by the district and the judge and all of that, this is a step into the right direction and a step in the right direction for Maya Moore, and that shows that you can really stand out to do the right thing. You really can. Shout out to Maya Moore. You are our standout athlete of the week. And this concludes another episode of The NightStand with Stan Becton. That's me, your host. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Just search The NightStand and follow us on Instagram at The NightStand Show. Use the hashtag The NightStand for more info. We got content coming for you all week. Next week, you can find us for 2 special episodes, one on NFL free agency and one on March Madness. Just know, The NightStand is your favorite show.